Telepathic Mute, The Silent Avenger Trilogy Book 3, Mystic Mute Muse, The Telepathic Healer Chapter 1, The Silent Healer. The narrow cobblestone streets that crisscrossed the town gleamed under the afternoon sun. Nestled among the vintage shops and coffee houses was a discreet plaque, Dr. Bradley, Psychological Consultant. A chime tinkled softly as the door opened, and a woman stepped in, clutching her purse tightly. Bradley looked up from his desk and smiled gently, his eyes making the connection that his voice never could. Over the years, the lack of speech had become less of a hindrance and more a unique strength. It meant he listened, truly listened, without interjection, and his clients valued that. "Welcome," he wrote on a notepad and showed her, gesturing to the chair opposite his. The woman, middle-aged with streaks of silver in her hair, took a deep breath and sat down. "I heard about you," she began hesitantly. "They said you have an uncanny ability to understand. That you've helped people who were unreachable." Bradley nodded, encouraging her to continue. As she narrated her story, he not only listened to her words but also to the echoes of her thoughts. The overlapping voices, fears, and insecurities that danced in her mind played like a familiar song to him. Bradley's telepathic abilities had matured, become nuanced. The onslaught of emotions and thoughts he used to struggle with in his youth were now waves he expertly surfed, channeling them for the betterment of his patients. He sensed her trauma, the layers of defense she had built around her core, and the underlying issue that she was skirting around. Gently, using a combination of written questions and pointed looks, he guided her, allowing her to confront and address her buried emotions. When the session was done, tears streamed down her face, but they were cathartic, cleansing. She felt lighter, more understood than she ever had. "Thank you," she whispered, gripping his hand with gratitude. After she left, Bradley took a moment to breathe. Each session took a lot out of him, delving deep into another's psyche, but it was worth it. He had found his calling. His phone buzzed. It was a text from Garth. "Dinner tonight?" Bradley smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. Garth had been a pillar of strength, understanding him in ways no one else did. Yet, the weight of the secret he carried about his telepathic abilities pressed on him, especially when it came to Garth. The day went on with more clients walking in, each with their tales of woe, heartbreak, trauma, and sometimes, merely confusion. Bradley, the silent healer, helped them untangle their thoughts, make sense of their emotions, and find a way forward. As night descended, and the last client left, Bradley took a moment to reflect. He felt the burden of responsibility heavily. His telepathy was both a gift and a curse. A tool that let him do so much good, yet something he felt compelled to keep hidden. At dinner, as Garth laughed at a joke, Bradley caught a fleeting thought from him. "He understands people so well." Does he? No. Bradley's heart skipped a beat. Did Garth suspect his secret? He wrestled with the thoughts. Part of him wanted to come clean, to share the weight of his secret. Another part feared the consequences. What if Garth didn't understand? What if he saw it as a violation? But tonight wasn't the night for such revelations. For now, he would revel in the comfort of Garth's company, pushing the concerns to a corner of his mind. The city lights played on the streets as Bradley walked back home, the echoes of the day's sessions still reverberating in his mind. The path he had chosen was not easy, but it was rewarding. He was making a difference, touching lives in ways no one else could. The silent healer was leaving his mark, one soul at a time. Chapter 2. Marital echoes. The morning sun streamed through the blinds, casting a golden hue over the room. Bradley awoke, with Garth's arm draped protectively over him. For a moment, he savored the peace, the simple joy of waking up next to the one he loved. Yet, peace was fleeting. With consciousness came the ever-present hum of thoughts, the background noise he had grown so accustomed to. It was a symphony he couldn't escape, not even with Garth. Garth stirred next to him, his eyelashes fluttering as he began to wake. Bradley took the moment to push away the temptation. He could so easily delve into Garth's thoughts, to seek assurance, to know what he truly felt. But that would be a breach of trust, wouldn't it? "Morning," Garth murmured, pulling Bradley closer. Bradley responded with a smile and a gentle squeeze, a silent acknowledgement. They went about their morning routine, a dance they had perfected over their time together. Yet, beneath the mundane, Bradley felt an undercurrent of unease. Had last night's fleeting thought been a mere passing wonder, or was Garth genuinely suspicious? Over breakfast, Bradley tried to focus on their conversation, plans for the day, a new movie that was out, the weather, but he was continually distracted by the barrage of thoughts flowing around him. He caught snippets of Garth's reflections, his wonderings about Bradley's uncanny intuition, the way he seemed to anticipate everyone's needs and emotions. Bradley sighed internally. How could he explain his gift without it sounding like a curse? How could he tell Garth he could hear every unspoken word, every hidden emotion? The days turned into weeks. While their love was undeniable, there were moments of tension, threads of doubt weaving into the fabric of their relationship. Bradley caught Garth observing him more closely, especially when they were in social situations. One evening, at a dinner party, Bradley noticed Garth's keen interest as he spoke with a distraught friend, comforting her without uttering a single word. The ease with which he navigated conversations, the gentle nudges he gave to guide people, did not go unnoticed. Later that night, Garth confronted him. "Bradley, how do you do it? How do you always know what to say, or rather, what to write?" "It's uncanny." Bradley hesitated, torn between revealing his secret and protecting their relationship. I just listen," he scribbled, avoiding Garth's probing eyes. Garth wasn't convinced. "There's more to it, Bradley. I've seen you, the way you anticipate things. It's as if you know what's on everyone's mind." Bradley felt a lump in his throat. Was this the moment? The moment where everything would change? They sat in silence, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. Bradley felt the cacophony of emotions within him, the whirlwind of love, fear, doubt, and trust. He so wanted to peek into Garth's mind, to know what he truly felt. But he resisted. This was a moment that required genuine communication, not telepathic eavesdropping. After what felt like hours, Bradley wrote, "I trust you, Garth. There's something I need to tell you, something I've never told anyone." Garth looked into Bradley's eyes, the intensity of the moment palpable. "Tell me." The confession was arduous. Bradley painstakingly explained his gift, his ability to hear thoughts. He told Garth about the struggles, the moral dilemmas, the weight of always knowing what was on everyone's mind. He revealed how he had used it to help, to heal, to understand. When he was done, Garth was silent, processing the magnitude of what he had just heard. Bradley waited, the silence deafening, the uncertainty gnawing at him. Finally, Garth whispered, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Bradley scribbled, "I was afraid. Afraid of losing you." Garth took a deep breath. "It's a lot to take in." "But I love you, Bradley. We'll figure this out." Bradley felt tears prick his eyes, the relief overwhelming. They held onto each other, two souls navigating the complexities of love, trust, and extraordinary abilities. In the end, love would guide them, even through the echoes of doubt. Chapter 3. The Boss's Secret. Bradley's psychological consulting practice had begun to gain traction. His unique ability to understand and connect with his clients on a deep level garnered him respect and admiration. But it wasn't just his clients he was connecting with. His daily life was an unending stream of voices and thoughts from those around him, and one particular string of thoughts had been bothering him lately, those of his boss, Dr. Richard Fenway. Dr. Fenway was a revered figure in the field, a mentor to many, including Bradley. He was a tall man with a chiseled jaw, graying at the temples, always impeccably dressed. His charismatic persona had drawn many to him, including Bradley. But recently, Bradley had begun to pick up on thoughts that painted a picture far removed from the revered mentor's public image. Thoughts tinged with guilt, deception, and a desperate need to conceal a secret. As days passed, Bradley began to piece the puzzle together. The late nights at the office, the secretive phone calls, the guilt-ridden thoughts, it all pointed towards an affair. And the other person involved was someone close, someone Bradley knew, a junior associate named Clara. Bradley was torn. Dr. Fenway had been a pillar of support, guiding him through the intricacies of the profession. Clara, on the other hand, was young, ambitious, and had become an unwitting participant in this clandestine affair. Bradley's telepathic insights painted a picture of a vulnerable young woman, drawn towards a figure of authority, believing in the promises whispered in stolen moments. The weight of this secret was oppressive. Every interaction with Dr. Fenway became a minefield. Bradley wrestled with the moral implications. Should he intervene? Could he use his gift to bring the truth to light, or would that be an overreach, a violation of his ethical boundaries? Days turned into weeks. Bradley observed Clara becoming more withdrawn, the weight of the secret taking its toll. He felt her pain, her confusion, and the simmering resentment towards Dr. Fenway, who seemed to be growing more distant by the day. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at the practice, Bradley decided to take matters into his hands. Using his telepathic nudges, he orchestrated a situation where Dr. Fenway, Clara, and Dr. Fenway's unsuspecting wife would be present at the same location, a charity gala the practice was sponsoring. The night of the gala arrived. Bradley could feel the tension in the air. He had discreetly sent an invite to Mrs. Fenway, ensuring she would be present. As the evening progressed, Bradley subtly influenced the events, ensuring Clara and Dr. Fenway would have no choice but to interact, all while under the watchful eyes of Mrs. Fenway. It was a risky move, one fraught with potential complications. But Bradley believed in the power of the truth, in its ability to heal, to set things right. As he watched from a distance, he saw the realization dawn on Mrs. Fenway's face. The stolen glances, the whispered conversations, the undeniable chemistry, it all fell into place. The confrontation was quiet, restrained, but the pain was palpable. Mrs. Fenway, with grace and dignity, left the gala, leaving behind a shattered Dr. Fenway and a distraught Clara. In the days that followed, the fallout was immense. Dr. Fenway took a leave of absence, and Clara handed in her resignation. The practice was abuzz with whispered conversations, speculation, and judgment. Bradley grappled with the consequences of his actions. Had he done the right thing? Was it his place to expose the truth, or should he have stayed out of it? As he reflected on the events, he was approached by Clara. Tearful but composed, she whispered, "I don't know how you did it, but thank you." Bradley nodded, offering a comforting hand on her shoulder. Sometimes, the truth is painful, but it's also liberating. Clara smiled weakly. "I've learned my lesson. Thank you for showing me the way." Bradley watched her leave, a mix of emotions churning within him. His telepathic gift was both a boon and a curse. But in moments like these, when he could guide someone towards the light, he felt its true worth. The truth had been exposed, and the healing could begin. But at what cost? The question lingered in Bradley's mind as he prepared for another day at the practice, another day of navigating the complex web of human emotions. Chapter 4. Dreamwalkers. A soft chime resonated through Bradley's office, signaling the start of a new session. Staring at the computer screen, he saw the name, Elaine Morris, flash across his appointment list, a recurring patient. She was a trauma survivor, haunted by memories of a car crash that had claimed the life of her daughter. Traditional therapy had provided little solace, and Bradley knew she needed something more. Lately, Bradley had been experimenting with a new approach, influenced by his telepathic abilities. Drawing upon literature from ancient mystics and the latest neuroscience, he discovered he could tap into the minds of sleeping patients, guiding their dreams to confront traumas and negative emotions. He termed it dreamwalking. As the evening sun cast elongated shadows through the blinds, Bradley reclined in his chair, closing his eyes and focusing intently. He pictured Elaine, lying in her bed, her breathing steady, entering the realm of REM sleep. With a few deep breaths, Bradley felt a familiar tug, the sensation of entering another's mind. Suddenly, he found himself standing on an eerily familiar road. The remnants of a car crash loomed ahead, twisted metal, shattered glass, the sharp scent of burning rubber in the air. It was the scene of Elaine's trauma, replaying night after night in her dreams. Moving cautiously, Bradley approached the wreckage. Inside the car was Elaine, her hands gripping the steering wheel, her eyes wide with terror. In the back seat, a child's teddy bear lay discarded, a silent witness to the tragedy. Bradley, gathering his resolve, gently reached out and touched Elaine's shoulder. She turned, recognition flashing in her eyes. "Why are you here?" she whispered, her voice quivering. "To help," Bradley responded calmly. "Together, we will confront this memory and find a way to heal." Taking a deep breath, Elaine nodded. Bradley guided her out of the car, and they began walking down the road. The scene shifted around them, dream logic warping reality. Soon, they were in a beautiful meadow, the sun shining brightly, flowers in full bloom. "In this space, you are safe," Bradley murmured. "Remember the good times with your daughter, the love you shared." Tears streamed down Elaine's face as memories flooded back, birthdays, vacations, the sound of her daughter's laughter. The pain was palpable, but so was the love. "Confronting our traumas isn't about forgetting," Bradley explained gently. "It's about understanding, accepting, and finding a way to move forward. Suddenly, a little girl appeared in the distance, running towards them, her laughter echoing. Elaine gasped as her daughter, vibrant and alive, rushed into her arms. They held each other tightly, tears of joy and sorrow mingling. Bradley watched the reunion, feeling a mix of relief and pride. The dream realm was a powerful tool, capable of profound healing. But he also recognized its dangers, the temptation to stay, to get lost in the allure of dreams and escape reality. After what felt like hours, Bradley gently guided Elaine back to the road, back to the scene of the crash. With a final embrace, her daughter disappeared, leaving Elaine with a sense of closure. As dawn's first light began to filter into the room, Bradley slowly opened his eyes, the weight of the dreamwalk heavy upon him. The ethics of such interventions were murky. Was he playing God, meddling with the very fabric of one's psyche? Or was he a healer, using his unique gifts to bring solace to those in pain? He was pulled from his reverie by the sound of his phone buzzing. It was a message from Elaine. I don't know how to explain it, but last night's dream, it was different. For the first time in years, I woke up with a sense of peace. Thank you. Bradley smiled, tears forming in his eyes. Despite the moral quandaries, the doubts, and the challenges, moments like these reminded him of his purpose. In the quiet of his office, surrounded by books and the soft hum of the computer, Bradley made a silent vow. He would continue to explore the boundaries of his abilities, to push the limits, all in the pursuit of healing. But he would also tread cautiously, ever mindful of the delicate balance between intervention and intrusion. Chapter 5. Echoes of the past. The wind rustled through the trees outside Bradley's office, carrying with it memories of a time long past. The familiar tune of his phone brought him back to reality. He picked up the call without glancing at the caller ID. Hello, Bradley? It's me, Jenna. Bradley's heart skipped a beat. Jenna, the girl who had shared the corridors of Phoenix High with him. The same Jenna who had been one of the few who tried to befriend him, despite his mute condition. But as with many things in high school, their paths had diverged. Jenna, how have you been? It's been ages. I know, right? Jenna's voice held a tremor, something Bradley could not quite pinpoint. Listen, I've been hearing about your practice. How you've been helping people in unimaginable ways. I think I need your help. The gravity in her voice was palpable. They arranged to meet the next day. When Jenna walked into Bradley's office, the weight of the years seemed to hang heavily on her. She looked weary, her eyes shadowed. They hugged briefly, the past swirling around them. After settling down, Jenna began, I've been haunted, Bradley. Haunted by our time at Phoenix, by the choices I made, by the people I associated with. Bradley nodded. Memories of Phoenix High, with its maze of relationships, the bullies, the tormented, and the bystanders, coming back to him. There's something I never told you back then, Jenna continued, her eyes glistening. I knew more about the bullying than I let on. I didn't participate, but I didn't stop it either. And I've been carrying that guilt ever since. Bradley, drawing upon his years of experience, nodded, allowing her the space to continue. One day, I witnessed something, she whispered, something that I should have stopped. It involved a younger student. I watched from a distance, too scared to intervene. And the guilt, it's been eating at me ever since. Bradley reached out, placing a comforting hand on hers. He had suspected as much back in the day, but hearing it now, years later, stung. "Jenna, the past can't be changed," Bradley began gently, "but it's never too late to make amends. To confront it, understand it, and find a way to heal." "But how?" Jenna looked up, desperation evident in her eyes. "How do I forgive myself?" Over the next few hours, Bradley used a combination of traditional therapy techniques and subtle telepathic nudges to help Jenna confront her guilt. They revisited that fateful day at Phoenix High, reliving the moments, the choices, and the repercussions. By evening, Jenna looked lighter, as if a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. "Thank you, Bradley," she whispered, hugging him. "I have a long way to go, but I feel like I've taken the first step." After Jenna left, Bradley sat alone in the dimming light, reflecting on the past and the path he had chosen. The encounter with Jenna had been a test, a reminder of his own growth and the decisions he had made. It underscored the impact he was having, not just as a healer, but as someone who had walked the path of pain and emerged stronger. He realized that his time at Phoenix, with all its challenges, had shaped him, made him empathetic, and given him a purpose. He was no longer the silent, tormented boy from high school. He was Dr. Bradley, the telepathic healer, helping others find their voice in the cacophony of life's challenges. Lying in bed that night, Bradley's thoughts drifted to Garth and the love they shared. Jenna's visit had been a stark reminder of the importance of confronting the past, of seeking closure. He wondered if he would ever find the courage to share his secret with Garth, to bare his soul completely. With a sigh, he closed his eyes, letting the echoes of the past lull him to sleep. Tomorrow was another day, another chance to heal, to grow, and to love. Chapter 6. Family whispers. The patter of tiny feet echoing through the hallway was the new soundtrack of Bradley's life. Parenthood had brought an explosion of emotions, more intense than any he'd ever felt. The joy of seeing his twins, Maya and Max, take their first steps, the anxiety of their first day at school, and the profound love he felt every time they reached out their little arms for a hug. These moments, so mundane to most, were amplified 100-fold for Bradley, every emotion of his children echoing loudly within his mind. He'd been apprehensive about becoming a father, worried about how his telepathic abilities would interact with his children. Would he inadvertently invade their privacy? Would he be tempted to influence their choices? But as the days turned into months and months into years, Bradley learned the delicate balance of being a telepathic parent. When Maya came home from school one day, a cloud of sadness enveloping her, Bradley had to resist the urge to dive deep into her thoughts. Instead, he knelt beside her, brushed her curly hair off her face, and asked gently, "What's wrong, sweetheart?" She looked into his eyes, a mirror of her own, and whispered, "I miss Mommy when I'm at school." Bradley's heart constricted. Balancing work, his psychological practice, and parenthood after Garth's passing was a daily struggle. He wrapped Maya in his arms, trying to shield her from the pain of loss, even if just for a moment. Late at night, when the world was silent and the twins were tucked into bed, Bradley often found himself reflecting on his own parents. They had been supportive, albeit a little distant, always unsure about how to bridge the gap with their mute son. But after the discovery of his telepathy, they had been his rock, never questioning, never judging. They had protected his secret, even from themselves, never seeking to benefit from his abilities. One evening, While Bradley was poring over some old family photographs, he stumbled upon a letter nestled between the pages. The handwriting was his mother's, the words addressed to him but never shared. It read, "Dear Bradley, from the moment you were born, we knew you were special. Not because of your silence, but because of the profound understanding in your eyes. We've always sensed your unique connection with the world, even before you realized your gift. We've seen you struggle, trying to reconcile your abilities with the world's expectations. But always remember, your gift is not a burden but a beacon, guiding those lost in the darkness. As parents, our only wish has been to protect you, to give you a life where you're free to be yourself. We may not have always understood, but we've always loved, always supported. Never doubt that." With all our love, Mom and Dad. Tears streamed down Bradley's face as the weight of his parents' silent support hit him. They had known, on some level, and they had accepted him, loved him unconditionally. The revelation was both comforting and overwhelming. The following day, with the twins playing in the backyard, Bradley sat on the porch, the letter clutched in his hand. The world seemed clearer, sharper, the colors more vibrant, the sounds more melodious. The bond he shared with his children, the love he felt for them, and the love he now realized his parents had for him intertwined in a beautiful tapestry of emotions. The journey of parenthood was challenging, fraught with moments of doubt, anxiety, and joy. But with every challenge came growth, understanding, and a deeper connection with his children. As Bradley watched Maya and Max play, their laughter filling the air, he realized that while he could shield them from the world's pain, he couldn't and shouldn't shield them from life's experiences. They needed to grow, to learn, to make mistakes. All he could do was guide, support, and love unconditionally, just as his parents had done for him. With newfound clarity, Bradley embraced the challenges and joys of parenthood, each day a new chapter in the beautiful story of family. The whispers of the past, the echoes of love, and the promise of the future melded together, reminding Bradley of the intricate tapestry of life and the profound beauty of family. Chapter 7. The Silent Crisis. Bradley had seen many souls walk through the door of his consultation office, some broken, some searching, some angry. But none had ever emitted such a chaotic mix of emotions as did the man sitting across from him now. Leonard, as he introduced himself, was a middle-aged man, with piercing blue eyes and an air of unpredictability. Every client had a distinct mental signature, but Leonard's was a swirling storm. Anguish, fear, regret, and something darker lurked beneath the surface. Bradley had to concentrate to sift through the turbulence, treading carefully so as not to intrude too much, respecting the boundaries of his client's mind. "I'm not sure why I'm here," Leonard began, his voice low and raspy. "I've done things I can't erase. Memories that won't leave me alone." Bradley nodded gently. "We all have our pasts, Leonard. Some chapters darker than others. But you're here now, seeking something. What would you like to find?" Silence hung heavy in the room before Leonard whispered, "Redemption. Or maybe just peace." As their session progressed, Bradley, while being cautious, let his telepathic senses roam lightly across Leonard's thoughts. Flashes of imagery, dark alleys, panicked faces, a glint of metal. There was a secret Leonard held, a memory of an event that was tearing him apart from the inside. The weight of the emotion was nearly overwhelming. Leonard's internal conflict was evident. He was grappling with something he'd done or was about to do. Bradley had to tread a fine line between counselor and telepathic guardian. His primary responsibility was to Leonard's mental well-being, but if he sensed that someone could be in imminent danger, could he stay silent? The next hour was a dance of words and emotions. Leonard alluded to a past steeped in crime and a present filled with temptation. He was torn, feeling the pressure of a decision he needed to make. Bradley could feel the man's internal torment, the battle between right and wrong, and the overpowering weight of regret. When the session came to an end, Leonard stood up, eyes downcast. "Thank you," he murmured. I'll think about what you've said." Bradley watched him go, feeling a deep sense of unease. It wasn't merely the man's past that worried him, but the imminent future. That night, sleep eluded Bradley. The memory of Leonard's chaotic mind played on a loop, the flashes of dark alleys and panicked faces haunting his dreams. He knew he had to act. But how? The next morning, Bradley decided to trust his instincts. He would confront Leonard, not as a therapist but as someone who genuinely wanted to help. He couldn't let Leonard's internal struggle manifest into a real-world tragedy. Finding Leonard proved harder than anticipated. Days turned into weeks, and the feeling of urgency grew. Bradley couldn't shake off the nagging sense that time was running out. Late one evening, as he was wrapping up his sessions, Bradley received a call. An unfamiliar voice spoke, "Meet me at Pier 27. There's something you need to know." The line went dead before Bradley could respond. With his heart in his throat, Bradley made his way to the pier. The atmosphere was thick with tension, the air misty, and the only sound was the distant lapping of waves. There, at the edge, stood Leonard, a silhouette against the dim light. "I knew you'd come." Leonard's voice was thick with emotion. Bradley approached cautiously. "Leonard, whatever you're thinking, we can talk about it." Leonard chuckled bitterly. "It's not about me. It's about something I've been dragged into. Something big, dangerous. And I'm not sure if I can stop it." The two men talked, Leonard revealing a plot that involved significant players in the criminal underworld. It was bigger than anything Bradley had ever imagined, with the potential for a lot of collateral damage. The weight of the situation bore down on Bradley. He knew he had to intervene, but he also realized the potential dangers of getting involved. The question was, could he live with the consequences of inaction? The night stretched into the early hours as Bradley and Leonard strategized. Bradley's telepathic abilities, combined with Leonard's inside knowledge, proved invaluable. The two hatched a plan to expose the plot without endangering innocent lives. In the days that followed, Bradley found himself deeper in the world of subterfuge and deception than he'd ever thought possible. It was a world where his telepathic abilities were both an advantage and a liability. Every move had to be calculated, every risk weighed. The climax came in a sting operation, orchestrated with the help of some of Bradley's trusted allies. The plot was exposed, the criminals apprehended, and a major crisis averted. Leonard, having played a critical role in the takedown, disappeared soon after, leaving behind a simple note. Chapter 8. Trust and Betrayal. The morning sun streamed through the sheer curtains of Bradley's home office, casting an amber hue on the mahogany desk that held memories of countless consultations. As he sipped his morning coffee, the familiar chime of an incoming email diverted his attention. An unassuming subject line read, "An intriguing article about you." Curiously, Bradley clicked on the link. A news article popped up, and the headline hit him like a sledgehammer. The Silent Whisperer. Harvard scholar claims psychic abilities among us. The article detailed instances from Bradley's time at Harvard. It hinted at a mysterious student who, though mute, seemed to have an uncanny understanding of those around him. The story danced around the concept of telepathy without outright stating it, but left enough breadcrumbs for readers to draw conclusions. His heart raced. Someone from his Harvard days had spoken. But who? And why? Bradley recalled the faces of professors, colleagues, and friends. Among them was Jason, a close friend from their days in Harvard halls. They had shared countless hours debating ethics, attending lectures, and even confiding personal secrets. It was Jason who had first hypothesized about Bradley's extraordinary abilities, but Bradley never confirmed nor denied them. Now, it seemed, Jason had decided to share his theory with the world. The next few days were a blur of emotions for Bradley. Anger, betrayal, sadness, they all took their turn. He felt exposed, vulnerable. This wasn't just about him. Garth, his children, his clients, all could be affected by this revelation. He decided to confront Jason directly. A brief phone call, and they agreed to meet at their favorite cafe near Harvard Square, a place filled with memories of simpler times. Jason was already there when Bradley arrived. He seemed older, wearier. They exchanged awkward greetings before Bradley got straight to the point. "Why, Jason?" Bradley's voice held a mix of pain and disbelief. Jason sighed, looking down at his hands. "I'm sorry, Bradley. The world has changed so much. These abilities, they're sought after now. There's a market for the supernatural, the unique. And I saw an opportunity." Bradley's eyes narrowed. An opportunity for what? Fame? Money? Jason swallowed hard, avoiding Bradley's gaze. "Both, I guess. I thought the story was too incredible to be left untold. And yes, there was an offer for a book deal. I thought I was doing the right thing. I didn't mention your name directly. But you might as well have," Bradley shot back, the weight of the betrayal heavy on him. Silence stretched between them. The noise of the cafe seemed to fade into the background, replaced by the deafening silence of two friends at an impasse. It would have been easy for Bradley to tap into Jason's mind, to seek out every nook and cranny of his friend's intentions. But he resisted. It was a matter of principle. "I trusted you," Bradley whispered, feeling the weight of the years behind the statement. Jason's voice broke. "I know. And I'll regret this decision for the rest of my life. I let ambition cloud my judgment." The two sat in quiet contemplation. Years of friendship, trust built and trust broken, hung in the balance. Bradley finally broke the silence. "What now, Jason? Where do we go from here?" Jason looked up, tears in his eyes. "I can't take back what I've done. But I'll do everything I can to make it right. I'll decline the book offer, issue a retraction. Anything." Bradley nodded, the pain still fresh but the understanding of human frailty more profound. "I appreciate that. But trust, once broken, is hard to mend." As the day faded, the two friends departed, their future uncertain. But in the shadow of betrayal, Bradley's telepathic abilities served as a poignant reminder. Understanding isn't just about knowing another's thoughts. It's about empathy, compassion, and the difficult journey of forgiveness. The days that followed were a mix of damage control and reflection. Bradley, with Garth's unwavering support, navigated the choppy waters of public opinion. They issued statements, clarified, and even received a public apology from Jason. The storm would pass, but its impact was a lasting reminder of the fragility of trust. In the heart of the turmoil, Bradley's telepathy provided solace. He didn't need to invade thoughts to understand human nature. Everyone had moments of weakness, lapses in judgment. But it was the capacity to learn, to grow, and to seek forgiveness that truly defined humanity. Chapter 9. Legacy of Echoes. The sun was beginning its descent, casting a golden hue over the city. Bradley stood by the window, watching the world go by. From up here, everything seemed so simple, so far away. Yet, within him, a storm raged, a tumult of emotions, memories, and decisions. His life had been extraordinary by any measure. From the days of being the mute boy, to the whispered rumors of his uncanny abilities in the Harvard halls, and now, a respected psychologist with a gift that defied explanation. The echoes of his journey reverberated in every corner of his mind. With every individual he'd helped, there were others he'd inadvertently harmed. There was the young woman whose trust he'd broken when he'd delved too deep, the old man he'd pushed too hard to confront a buried trauma, the countless relationships strained because of the unspoken knowledge he held. The weight of his mistakes pressed heavily on him. He recalled a session with a teenage boy, Mark, who was grappling with intense feelings of isolation. Bradley had nudged him, ever so slightly, to open up, to share, and in doing so, had helped him forge meaningful connections. The boy's gratitude had been palpable. Moments like these were a testament to the potential good he could do. But there was a darker side. The temptation to intervene, to correct or guide, based on his own judgments, had sometimes led him astray. His abilities, powerful and profound as they were, came with their own set of challenges. Garth entered the room, sensing Bradley's contemplative mood. "Deep in thought?" he asked gently. Bradley nodded, just reflecting on everything. The paths I've taken, the choices I've made. Garth walked over, placing a comforting hand on Bradley's shoulder. "You've done so much good, Bradley. Remember that." A soft smile played on Bradley's lips. "I know. But with every action, there's a reaction. Sometimes, I wonder if I've played God too much, if I've intervened when I shouldn't have." Garth squeezed Bradley's shoulder. "It's a heavy burden, love. But I've seen the lives you've touched, the differences you've made." The two sat in companionable silence, the weight of years and experiences between them. Bradley's thoughts traveled back to the countless individuals he'd met, the stories he'd been privy to. Each echo, a testament to the human experience. As the night deepened, Bradley made a decision, one that had been forming in the recesses of his mind for some time. He would step back from active intervention. No more nudging, no more pushing. Instead, he would focus on guidance, letting individuals find their path while he served as a silent beacon. Garth, sensing the shift in Bradley, looked at him questioningly. Bradley, with a newfound clarity, spoke, "I've decided to take a step back, Garth. To guide, not push. I've realized that while I have this gift, it's not my place to decide for others. I can be there, I can support, but the decisions, the journey, it belongs to them." Garth nodded, understanding the depth of Bradley's words. It's a wise decision. But know that whatever path you choose, I'm with you." Bradley leaned into Garth's embrace, drawing strength from the unwavering support. "Thank you," he whispered, gratitude evident in his voice. As the night wore on, the city lights twinkling below, Bradley felt a sense of peace envelop him. His journey, with its highs and lows, had led him to this moment. A moment of understanding, acceptance, and resolution. The echoes of his past, the voices, the memories, they would always be a part of him. But as he looked to the future, he knew he was ready for a new chapter, one of guidance, wisdom, and the legacy of echoes that would define his life's work. Chapter 10. Whispers of tomorrow. In the heart of the city, amid the cacophony of voices, Bradley had found solace. Each whisper, each thought, each echo became a part of the intricate tapestry that told the story of humanity. And now, as he looked toward the horizon, he envisioned a world not of conflict and misunderstanding, but of genuine understanding and empathy. For years, Bradley had been a silent observer, a guardian angel of sorts, always in the background, gently guiding, nudging, and, at times, intervening. He had witnessed the range of human emotions, from despair to hope, from hate to love. Through it all, he had maintained his faith in the innate goodness of people. Sitting in his office, surrounded by books and memorabilia from his journey, Bradley pondered the future. With each passing day, the world seemed to grow more divided, more contentious. But what if, he thought, what if there was a way to bridge the gaps, to forge genuine connections? What if there was a way to amplify the whispers of goodwill and drown out the voices of hate? Taking a deep breath, Bradley reached out with his mind, focusing his energy, and began to connect with the people around him. It wasn't an intrusion, but a gentle touch, a nudge toward understanding. He could feel the ebb and flow of emotions, the tangled webs of thoughts, and the underlying currents of goodwill. Slowly, he began to plant seeds, seeds of understanding, seeds of empathy. He reached out to those in despair, offering a glimmer of hope, to those in conflict, providing a moment of clarity, and to those lost in the maze of life, offering direction. It was a Herculean task, one that demanded every ounce of his strength and focus. Sweat formed on his brow, and his breaths became labored, but Bradley did not waver. Hour after hour, he continued his silent vigil, touching countless lives, planting seeds, and nurturing the whispers of tomorrow. As dawn approached, Bradley felt a sense of fulfillment, a warmth that radiated from within. He had done what he could, set in motion a wave of goodwill that, he hoped, would resonate through the ages. Exhausted, he leaned back in his chair, the weight of his endeavor pressing down on him. He closed his eyes for a moment, taking in the serenity of the early morning hours. A gentle knock on the door roused him. Opening his eyes, he saw Garth standing in the doorway, a look of concern on his face. "Bradley?" he whispered, his voice tinged with worry. "I'm okay," Bradley replied, his voice weak but filled with determination. "I've done what I needed to do. Now, it's up to the world." Garth rushed over, enveloping Bradley in a tight embrace. "What have you done?" he asked, his voice filled with awe and wonder. Bradley smiled, a hint of tears in his eyes. "I've planted seeds, Garth. Seeds of hope, seeds of understanding. The world may be filled with discord and strife, but there are also whispers of tomorrow, whispers of a better future. And I hope, with all my heart, that these whispers will grow louder, drowning out the voices of hate and division." The two men sat in silence, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. They knew that the journey ahead would be challenging, that the world was not yet ready to embrace the message of understanding and empathy fully. But they also knew that they had each other, and that, together, they could face any challenge. As the first rays of the sun broke through the horizon, Bradley looked out of the window, his heart filled with hope. The whispers of tomorrow were there, faint but growing stronger with each passing day. And he knew, with unwavering certainty, that the future was bright. The end. We hope you have enjoyed our paranormal scary story as the last story in a trilogy about Bradley, the telepathic mute. Please visit us at Paranormal Untold Stories. Come to listen to more of our scary stories collection. Paranormal Untold Stories encourages you to contact us if you have your own untold story that you would like our professionals team to put online as a scary story. Thank you. Please follow our YouTube channel, Paranormal Untold Stories, and encourage others to do the same. Paranormal Untold Stories.